This video is on the motivational phenomenon known as the overjustification effect. To understand the overjustification effect, we must first acknowledge that there are two primary types of motivation that drive human behavior: intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation refers to the desire to complete a behavior out of personal joy or interest, for example flying a kite. Alternatively, extrinsic motivation refers to completing a behavior to achieve a particular outcome, whether this be acquiring money, receiving social approval, or a reward for the behavior. While both are effective, generally intrinsic motivation is preferred more than extrinsic motivation, as the latter can be reduced once the incentive is no longer provided. When we start to mix these two types of motivators, they can lead to an adverse effect on an individual's motivation. One such occurrence is the overjustification effect. The overjustification effect was first formally recognized by Edward Deci in 1971, who was investigating the effects of extrinsic motivators such as rewards on intrinsic motivation. Deci found that the university students in his study were content to complete a puzzle with minimal supervision and for no particular purpose, thus reflecting an intrinsic motivation. And when Deci gave those in the experimental condition a financial incentive to complete the behavior, their motivation to spend more time on the puzzle increased. However, it was when this financial incentive was removed that those in the experimental condition had a significant decrease in their motivation to complete the puzzle, thus reflecting the overjustification effect. To summarize, the overjustification effect is where the introduction of a reward or incentive can have a detrimental effect on an individual's motivation to complete a task that they were originally happy to do on their own. The biggest issue with the overjustification effect is how accepted it is by our society. It is common practice to offer incentives to increase an individual's personal motivation to perform a behavior. It is still embedded across multiple facets of society, including in the business world, our education system, and in common parenting techniques. Despite the best intentions to increase intrinsic motivation with rewards and incentives, it often has a negative effect. To understand the overjustification effect, we can look at self-determination theory. Self-determination theory identifies that there are three needs required for an individual to be intrinsically motivated. These include autonomy, competence, and relatedness. If these needs are met, an individual will be more likely to be intrinsically motivated. However, in the case of the overjustification effect, once a reward is provided for the behavior, this undermines a person's sense of autonomy. This occurs because the individual attributes their behavior to the external reward, opposed to their own motivation. Thus, when the incentive is removed, they are significantly less motivated to perform the behavior. There are two ways we can address the overjustification effect. The first is to avoid reinforcing an individual's intrinsic motivation through material incentives. While these are effective motivators, they have a detrimental effect on an individual's intrinsic motivation. Alternatively, we can try to foster an individual's sense of autonomy and competence through positive feedback and support. This will in turn increase their intrinsic motivation to complete a behavior, making it more likely to continue in the long term. So remember, if you're looking to motivate someone to continue a self-driven behavior, avoid the use of material incentives and instead use positive verbal reinforcement. I hope you have found this presentation of value.